Hi, you guys. I am coming to you again with a uh, brief coaching tips. But today is more so just about talking and talking about things that people go through, right? In particularly um, forgiveness and forgetting. So, just to do a brief review, um, before I talk to you guys, and I'm looking at my notes. So before I talk to you guys about trauma in relationships and how relationships through words can traumatize you and how to develop a playbook on how to restore nurturance, right? So today I am talking about anger because after you have gone through what you have gone through in your relationship, through traumatizing words, you you have to get to a point of forgiveness, and there's a process to forgiveness. It's a process. It's not something that just happens overnight. So today I want to share with you guys talking about anger, forgiving, and forgetting. So, it is, and this may be a reality check for some people, or it may be something that you need to become aware of, but it is almost impossible. And a reminder for some, it is almost impossible to live in this world without offending other people and without people offending you. It's going to happen. You can expect it. Embrace it. Accept it. You're going to offend people, and people are going to offend you. But the thing is, and we talked about before starting a new norm. How do I get past the offense? How do I move on? So, I want to start out with this, talking about anger. Anger and pain, or particularly anger, is a natural emotion. And I actually wrote these out, right? Like little props. I'm a visual person. So, and it may be backwards on the camera. So, anger tells the other person that you hurt me. I'm not talking about aggression. I am not talking, there's a difference between anger and aggression. Anger tells the other person that you hurt me. It set boundaries with yourself. It teaches you how to set boundaries with people. And it teaches you how to set boundaries with others. Anger is a warning sign to you that, okay, I'm crossing my own personal boundary. It's also a flashing red light to other people. And we talked about button pushing. It lets the other person know that you're pushing my buttons. So whenever you're in a heated argument with someone and that person starts to become angry, it lets that person know that it should let you know that you're pushing that person button. You're pushing buttons. And you perhaps need to take a break. Walk away, come back. We talked about that. Come back, revisit the conversation. Anger also causes people to take a stand. You know, there are a lot of people that comes up on Facebook all the time, donate to this cause, donate to that cause, donate to this. But anger also causes people to take a stand and stand up for a cause and advocate for other people. It tells you that something needs to change. Anger lets you know that there are some things going on in my situation right now that absolutely need to change. Anger lets you know that you're human, that your feelings can be hurt, that people can say things or do things to you to injure you. I was talking to one of my therapist friends, and we was talking about anger, forgiveness, and forgetting. Anger fosters change. It makes you angry. You know, I have talked to a lot of women, and they're like, I don't know why I stayed in this relationship so long. Matter of fact, Mary J. Blige had a song from the movie Waiting to Exhale. And that song was sung with anger. But she was saying, like, why did I stay in this relationship so long? Why did I put in so much and wasn't getting anything back? So if her anger forced her to change, to say, hey, I need to take my life in a different direction. Now, holding on to anger, and this is a demonstration that, you know, my therapist friend gave to me. She said holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Anger and unforgiveness is drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Like, that's totally irrational. Totally irrational. So, holding on to anger, if anger has its purpose, and what made me want to talk about this with you guys is some people think that just because you forgive doesn't mean you're no longer angry. Because as my friend told me, she said, you know what, you could be angry that my family is not moving forward the way I want it to move forward. You could be angry that you've been on a job 20, 30 years and they decided to let you go. That doesn't necessarily mean you don't forgive. It just means that you're angry about the situation. But that anger should cause you to change directions, to advocate for other people. There should be a lesson that you learn out of that. So, anger becomes a problem when you refuse to move forward. You still holding the person accountable. Not necessarily. No, I'm gonna change that. Not accountable. You're still expecting the person to owe you something. That's the negative side of anger. So anger in a relationship, if it's used in a negative way, we're back to what we talked about the first time. It takes the nurturance out. Because when you're angry with something or someone, it's kind of hard to say, I love you. It's hard to go in the kitchen and fix dinner. It's hard to do those things. So, anger used in a negative way becomes an emotional poison. And we talked about the 5 deadly toxins and how they destroy your relationship. So, forgetting. Is it possible to forgive and forget? People say that all the time. Forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. Because, you know, I have a scar, and I have to look for it now. I have a scar on my arm right here that happened when I was a little girl. And at the time, I'm quite sure, I remember when it happened, but I'm quite sure it became inflamed because it's a burn scar. Was very painful, and my mom did everything she could to nurture me back to good health. However, that scar is still there. and I remember every incident of that scar. So forgetting, whenever you forget, I have my other little piece of paper here. Forgetting does not allow you to learn lessons from the situation. So we talked about anger, and and this is the process of forgiveness. There's a process to forgiveness, and I'm trying to go through the process. So your thing may not be anger, it may be disappointment. Your thing may be frustration. Whatever your emotion is at that time of the offense, there is a process. You just don't wake up after you have been injured or hurt. You don't wake up the next morning and say, "Oh, I forget." Oh, I forget. It doesn't work like that. Reality check, it does not work like that. So, forgetting. If you forget, and some things we do forget about, forgetting does not allow you to learn from the situation. It does not allow you to take a introspective look at the situation. Like, what could I have done differently? What could they have done differently? How could I have changed this situation? And normally when things happen to us, we ask ourselves, "Oh, how in the world did this happen? Like, where does this come from?" But if you forget the offense, right? If you forget the offense, you forget the injury, you forget the hurt, and please understand me when I'm saying this. I'm not talking about forgiving. There's a difference between forgetting and forgiving. So forgetting the injury, forgetting the lesson, because there's a lesson in every injury or every hurt and every pain. You're not able to look introspectively and say, "Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't even been in a situation in the beginning." This is something that I coach, the boys that I work with. And I ask them, I say, "Okay, let's start from day one. Like, what happened the morning you woke up? What happened?" "Well, this happened, that happened, that happened, this happened, this." That is taking an introspective look. Like, what could I have done differently? And maybe taking that introspective look, it brings consolation to you, because you're like, okay, there's nothing that I could have, it was no way I could have prevented this. So, forgetting, it takes away the avenue of prayer. It takes away your connection of seeking God, whatever your higher power is. It takes away that avenue to begin the process of healing. Forgetting, when people act, let me explain this too. What I mean about forgetting is being passive in the situation. Because over time, after you have forgiven someone for a hurt or an injury, you do forget. You do forget until something else comes up and reminds you. Like, "Oh yeah, I remember going through that." But what I mean by forgetting is being passive in the situation, and act as though the injury did not occur. To act as though you didn't just step on my toe and then say, "Excuse me." So it takes away the avenue of prayer, or building a closer relationship between you and God. Forgetting the situation, not addressing the situation, also takes away the awareness of how frail you are. I don't care how strong you are as a person, how much you have gone through, you're still human. You're still human. And offenses are going to come. People are going to offend you, and you are going to offend other people. So it reminds you of how frail you are. Because when someone offends you, sit down and think about the times that you have offended other people and how that you want them to forgive you. You want them not to no longer hold that offense against you. Forgetting, and what I mean by forgetting is being passive in the situation, acting as though nothing has happened. It doesn't give you the opportunity to celebrate your wins and your growth. It doesn't give you the opportunity. Forgetting doesn't allow for, or being passive in the situation doesn't allow for you to celebrate your wins or see how far you have come, or to it doesn't give you the opportunity to grow. All right. Forgetting or being passive, I want to make that clear what I mean by forgetting. Being passive, it makes you less sympathetic and empathetic towards other people. You're not able to relate or understand how they're feeling. You're not able to put yourself in their shoes. Forgetting or being passive also hinders your ability to comfort other people. The only reason why we're able to comfort other people because we have been comforted. And the only way people can comfort us is, I heard a preacher say one time, he said, don't hide your hand. And you know, for the Bible scholars out there, you know what I'm talking about. There was a man with a withered hand. And he was so ashamed of his withered hand, he kept it inside his coat. And because he kept hiding his withered hand, and whenever Jesus went through, he didn't have the opportunity to be healed. So a lot of people, by saying you forget the offense, you hiding your hand. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to grow and be healed. If someone injures you, they injured you. We're human. We have feelings. But, and this goes with the playbook too, you have to put together a playbook of how you're going to heal from that offense. Things happen, you know, things we expect, things we cause ourselves, things we did not cause. Forgetting and being passive about it, the only person that hinders is you. Because I could almost guarantee you, the other person, they know. But you have to be willing. I'm going to tell you, I heard this on the news this morning. This news anchor said, they was talking about, everybody knows what happened at the state capitol. Right? So, what the news anchor said, she said you have to be able to walk and chew gum too. And I was like, wow. So what she meant, and I made it relevant to what I'm talking to you guys about today, you have to be willing to accept that, first of all, you were injured, you were hurt, and also to begin the process of forgiving. You have to be able to do the two at one time. Walk and chew gum. Acceptance, recall the hurt, learn from it, move on, and forgive. Let go of the anger, let go of the bitterness, let go of the resentment. Some people are very vindictive and revengeful. Let that go. You have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Take the offense and begin the process of healing, and that includes forgiveness. Forgiving, you know, I think everybody knows this, what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not condoning the situation. Forgetting, is not condoning the situation. It's not saying it's okay what you did to me. It's not erasing the offense. That's not forgetting. So, in order to move forward, first, like the news anchor, I was watching ABC News this morning, and the news anchor said, and I, considering now the present state of America and what transpired this week, she said, we need a president that's able to walk and chew gum. And for now, what we're talking about, you have to be able to say, hey, you injured me, but I'm going to go through this process of forgiveness. Because holding on to anger is only poisoning you. That's the only person that's poisoning. Some people, hold on to stuff 40 years. Well, this is your new beginning. My first video, I talked to you about new year, new start, new norm. Stop drinking the poison. Let it go. You gotta let it go. So, forgiveness is a powerful thing. And to be honest with you, I have been meditating on this like all week. Forgiveness, and let me add this. Like, share, comment. Like, share, comment. Forgiveness is the analogy that I have in my mind, right? It relieves you and the other person of the guilt of the offense. You're doing that. It's a powerful tool. Forgiveness is a powerful tool. But it relieves you of the guilt, and it relieves the other person of the guilt of who offended you. Forgiveness, starting the process. And I keep saying process because forgiveness is a process. God is the only person that can forgive sins. God is the only person that can forgive sins. In one scripture, the Our Father prayer. Everybody know Our Father which art in heaven. But in that prayer, he said, forgive me of my sins as I forgive others of their sins. What he's talking about in that is, God, help me to release the other person. I don't want them to stand guilty before you. I don't want that. So I have to do my part in releasing them. So forgiveness allows you to heal. It's an act of letting go of the hurt and the pain. Not forgetting, because you can recall a situation. Y'all remember I talked about this little scar on my arm that happened when I was like 8 or 9. I'm very sure it was very painful at the time. But I could look at that scar right now and laugh about it. That's forgiveness. It's releasing the hurt and the pain, the bitterness, the resentment, the David prayers. Y'all know the David prayers, right? Lord, just strike them down with boils and from the head to the feet. Whenever you actually understand the concept of forgiveness, you won't pray prayers like that. You'll begin to say, God, forgive them because they know not what they do. God, have mercy on them and me. God, let us stand before you guiltless. That's forgiveness. So, forgiveness allows you to confront the situation. It causes you to recall the hurt all over again. A lot of people are not ready for that. That's why it's a process. Recall the hurt. Analyze what happened. Learn from it. Release the anger, release the hurt, release the pain. Forgiveness also cancels the debt of the other person. It says, you no longer owe me nothing. It's kind of like writing a blank check. Not a blank check, but writing the person a check and saying, zero balance. That's what you owe me. Nothing. Because I'm beginning the process of healing. You don't owe me nothing. I accept the hurt. I accept the pain. I'm no longer drinking the poison. It's time for me to move on. So it cancels the debt and basically said, we good. I'm straight. Brother Alvin Daniels did a devotional a couple of weeks ago called I'm Straight. I'm straight. That's what releasing that other person means. Yeah, you hurt me, you injured me, but I'm straight. Now I'm straight. So forgiveness is difficult and it's uncomfortable, but it's a process to begin your healing. It's difficult and it's uncomfortable. And like I said, a lot of people are not ready to enter into that uncomfort zone. They're not. Forgiving someone does not depend on the other person. Well, if you, I have a lot of parents do this with their children. Well, if you're good for a month, I'm going to give you 30 days. If you're good for a month, then I'll get you, what is it called? The PS5, PS3. Then I'll get you the game. No, it starts day one. But it starts with you. It starts with you releasing the anger, the hurt, the pain. Forgiving someone does not mean that you become their doormat, because it takes time to rebuild trust. It takes time. Just because I love you don't mean I'm gonna leave my purse around you. I'm taking my purse to the back room and come on in, honey. We could sit down and have dinner. So it doesn't mean that you're passive. Remember, we talked about forgetting. Girl, you just need to forgive and forget and move on. And basically what they're asking you to do is become passive in the situation. So don't be a doormat. Just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you invite them again to do everything all over again. No, it does not mean that. Forgiveness, we talked about this. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's not. Because I know a lot of us got scars from when we was kids, fighting with our cousins. All kind of stuff. And at the time, we was angry. But now, we look back and we laugh at it. Perfect example of forgiveness. All right. So, the process of forgiveness. And I actually want to show you this. I don't know if you can see it. I want to show you this. So, I like props. So, the process of forgiveness. This is the injury, right? And it is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. So, this is the injury. Here. You're injured or hurt, right? Injured or hurt. So, that injury, because you're not taking care of it the way that you're supposed to, it becomes infected. The infection is anger, disappointment. There's a lot of people who think they're angry, and actually you're disappointed. You're not angry at all. You're just disappointed, like, dog. I opened up the door and you did it again. Disappointment. It's pain. Pain is a feeling. Unforgiveness. That's the infected wound. That's the infected wound. It's bitterness, resentment, and having the need to get revenge. That's the infection, right? So when you have a wound that's severely infected, what you need is a doctor. You need to go on to the doctor, get you some Neosporin or whatever. But what the doctor does is he takes away all of the infection. And it's a process. He cleaned up your wound. He says come back in 2 weeks. But you have to do your part. You have to do your part. So the doctor takes out the infection, right? And that's a process. Anybody that has had an infected wound, and you're like, dog, what? Man, I can't believe I gotta go to the doctor again. But it's needed. So the doctor takes out the infection. Once the infection, the anger, the bitterness, the resentment, the unforgiveness, being revengeful, once that is removed, the healing process begins. That's when your healing begins. Then, so once the healing process begins, you're still left with the scar. I have a scar on my stomach from 2011 now, 2021, 4 years ago. That scar is still there. So, however, I'm reminded of why I had the surgery and the great pain that I went through prior to having the surgery. But I'm also reminded of how much better I feel now that the infection has been taken away. The scar is still there. You're not going to forget the scar. And over time, you're reminded, you'll look at yourself and be like, oh, somebody might even ask you, how did that happen? And instead of being bitter, the 5 toxins, bringing up the past, talking about the person's character and personality, you reference like, well, let me tell you what happened. It is so funny. X, Y, and Z happened. And my mama had to take me to the hospital, but I'm all right now. But my daughter got a scar right here on her head. I think she was probably about 6 or 7, a door fell on her head. And every now and then, she'll ask me to comb her hair out or do her hair. And I see that scar and I'm reminded. At the time when it happened, was I frantic? Was I questioning? Was I like, how did this happen? Yes, but now we laugh about it. And that's forgiveness. You still have the scar. You still have the scar. But you no longer have the pain, the anger. Pain too. You no longer resentful. You no longer bitter. Those things are gone. So what I want to share with you also is what's the playbook for this? We talked about playbooks a lot. And we're going to continue to talk about playbooks. I have a lot of playbooks. So what's my playbook for beginning the process of healing from an injury? And it's a difference between being hurt and being injured. What's my playbook for being hurt or injured? The first thing is this. You have to recall the hurt. You can't forget about it, act like it didn't happen. Embrace and accept that, yes, I was injured in this situation. I was injured. A lot of people don't, people want to throw on the Superman cape and they want to throw on the Wonder Woman cape. Young people probably, well, now y'all do. WW80, what is it, WW84 is that? But you want to throw on the cape and act like it did not even injure you. When on the inside, you're dying. So, the playbook, this is the beginning. This is just a summary of a playbook for resentment, basically unforgiveness. Recall the hurt. Embrace and accept the hurt. Forgive. Commit to beginning the process of forgiving. You may want to start journaling. I have journals from when I was 16 years old in my closet, stacked up high. And when I was about 23, I wrote the journal when I was about 23. I read the journal, and let me tell you, I was going off in that journal. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I talk like that. And so your process may be journaling, writing down what happened, how you feel about it. Another tool that you could use to begin your journey to forgiveness is writing a letter. I teach this to boys. I had one young man, His dad went to prison when he was like 1 or 2. His dad got life in prison. And so I was trying to convince him to write his dad in prison. He was like, no, I'm not going to do it. No. You know how young people say, no, dog, I'm straight. So eventually he came around to it. I said, well, if you don't do nothing else, and I know people are going to disagree with me on this. I said, if you don't do nothing else, you write him a letter, and you can use curse words or whatever words you want to use. You let him know how he disappointed you by not being there teaching you how to play football, for not playing catch with you in the front yard, for not teaching you how to ride a bike. In your letter, that's what you put. So eventually he came around, he said, Miss, and just threw the letter on my desk. Miss Morgan, here's the letter. I didn't even read it. It was like 8 pages. But he felt better. And I did not mail that letter to his dad. But it gave him the opportunity to say what he needed to say all those years. So you may need to write a letter. Not just that, but you may need to write a letter saying what your new commitment is. Write it to yourself. Write yourself a letter of forgiveness and say, you know what, Stephanie, I forgive you for putting up with that. I forgive you for not living your best life. I forgive you for not speaking up when you should have spoken up. So you may need to write yourself a letter of forgiveness. Another letter that you can write is a letter of commitment. I'm committed to forgive. But you don't necessarily have to write a letter for that. You could talk to a family member and say, you know what, you know my situation with Billy Bob. You know my situation. And, you know, we've been trying to reconcile for 5 years. And, you know, it takes 2 people. For reconciliation to take place, it takes 2 people. Not 1, 2. So you've been on the journey of reconciliation, but the other person has not. So you may need to talk to a family member or your best friend and say, hey, you know what? I'm on this new journey, and I want you to hold me accountable. And I want to be, every time I say something negative about this person, I want you to correct me and remind me of my journey. Because people want to heal. Matter of fact, I was talking to my therapist friend today, and she was saying people don't want to be angry, especially at a family member. You don't want to be angry at a family member, her words. And so basically, he was telling her, I don't know how to begin this journey. And she gave him the analogy or the demonstration of drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's what he was doing by holding on to anger. So, begin your journey. Start journaling. Pray. Prayer is with the group that I teach on healing and nurturance. One of the things that I teach the families that I work with is positive affirmation or prayer. Do it daily. Because it's impossible to be praying for someone's well-being and be angry at them at the same time. It's because whenever you do that, whenever you give positive affirmations to yourself or about someone else, research has shown that it changes the wiring in your brain. It changes it. It rewires your brain. Whenever you give positive affirmations to yourself or you begin to pray for other people. Pray for the person that offended you or you offended them. Pray that they are able to heal and overcome and begin to move forward in life. Okay. So, the last thing is after you begin the journey of forgiveness and you have forgiven the offense, whatever that is. Again, forgiveness is a process. You have to hold on to that forgiveness. You have to hold on to it. Because things are going to come up, especially if you're traumatized. Things are going to come up to remind you of what happened 10 years ago. Matter of fact, I'm going to share this with y'all. It's funny. Me and my daughter was talking about something with my grandbaby. Oh, her baby doll. My grandbaby take her baby. My daughter was like, she take that baby doll with her everywhere she go. And I and I said, I had a bear like that. And I did. I was probably about 8 or 9, probably younger than that. My mom bought me a little musical bear. And for whatever reason, the bear disappeared. And I am 46 years old, and I still talk about that bear. So, is the hurt and the pain still there? No. So now we can laugh about it, because my daughter was like, dog, mama, you in your 40s, and you still talking about that bear. And I'm like, I love my bear. But you have to hold on to forgiveness. That's my point. You have to hold on to it. So instead of remembering the negative, you begin to embrace the love. And this is especially true. I coach families who are going through grief. Also, is the first thing. Matter of fact, I have a family. This Thanksgiving was the first time they did not have their mom for Thanksgiving. And I said, well, instead of, sitting around remembering the loss, create a new norm. Hang stockings in the house. I'll continue the family tradition of meals that your grandmother will cook. And begin to create a new norm. And it's the same way, that's a hurt and that's a pain. And it's the same way with any other hurt and pain. You begin to create a new norm. Instead of looking at it in a negative light, and this is forgiveness, you begin to learn from it and look at it in a more positive way. And say, hey, this is what I learned. This is what I'm going to teach you. Especially in relationships. You're raising girls and you're raising boys, and you have been through bad relationships. Instead of holding on to that, teach your children what you learned. Teach them what you learned in those situations. Not the negative stuff. I mean, you could teach them, okay, this is what he's trying to do. X, Y, and Z. But one of the things I always teach my daughter, it's good people in the world. You just have to find them. So, hold on to forgiveness. That's what you have to do. So 1, recall your hurt. Accept the hurt, embrace it. Begin the process of forgiveness, and hold on to forgiveness, because things happen that reminds you of stuff that happened to you in the past, but you got to hold on to the good. Got to hold on to that. So, once again, and I'm going to wrap up, it is impossible to live in this world without offending other people and without people offending you. But as the news anchor said this morning, you have to learn how to walk and chew gum. You got to learn how to accept the hurt and the pain and forgive. Because the only person is hindering is you. Thank you guys. And remember to like, share, comment. You can inbox me. And any questions that you have or any topic that you would like for, I would say me and some of my friends, because, I have good friends, LMHCs, licensed mental health therapists, counselors. And if I don't have the answer, I get it for you. If you would like for them to come on and speak about a specific topic, something that you're struggling with right now, I'll do my best to persuade them, which I'm quite sure they'll do it. Matter of fact, I know they will, because they love helping people just as much as I do. So any topics that you would like to discuss, inbox me, and I have, asked them. I will ask them if they will be willing to come on and share with you guys some of the knowledge that they have. Remember, education is power. The more you educate yourself, the more that you can begin to move forward in life. Thank you guys so much. And just remember, you got to learn how to walk and chew gum at the same time. Accept the hurt and the pain. Begin the process of forgiveness. Thank you guys. Like, share, comment.